Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So I am seeing green, so I'm going to take that as I'm up, and I am seeing myself moving and shaking. Yeah guys, I had to get some rest. I'm sorry. I was up all night, and yeah, I was up all night. And it was functioning, running on Steam. But I wanted to do that video while it was in my head, while I was looking at it and paying attention to it. That being said, first, oh, by the way, there are comments that were on the other video that I didn't get a chance to read, so I'm going to read those here. Balthazar 228. Puritans came here to persecute others, not berbers. Balthazar 228. Spanish in DR didn't wreck the soil with cash crops for decades. France did to Haiti. By the time of the revolution, soil was wrecked. Hillary Clinton didn't help. Wesley Walker Jr. Worth it. Thank you, Wesley. Was it worth it? Worth it. All right. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. I didn't get a chance to say it in another video. I appreciate it. And by the way, I appreciate everyone who helps contribute to the channel. Like, share, comment. Have at it. You guys are absolutely appreciated. I came across an interesting story, and I guess I look at this and I experience this stuff through a particular lens. My rule is, when I'm looking at politics and I'm looking at this stuff, does it apply across the board? Are we playing favorites? Now, if we're playing favorites, why are we playing favorites? Who are we playing favorites for? And is it fair to play favorites in the first place? Now, I ask these questions. Political actors don't necessarily ask these questions. They just want to win. But from my standpoint, from my particular perch, my particular responsibility that, yes, I gave to myself is just be fair. Just be fair. Like, if I am talking to a conservative and he thinks I'm being biased, I've lost him. Not just lost him, it salts the soil where he's not going to come back to me because he thinks I'm a hack or I'm some biased actor. Now, if he at the very least believes that I'm being fair, even if he disagrees with me, he knows I disagree with him from a place that's not necessarily coming from some kind of major bias. It's just coming from my own particular value system. That value system being somewhat fixed. Or fixed is too strong. It's being planted in the ground that's there for everybody to see. It's kind of humanitarian value system. Now, the reason I say that, and the reason I chop that much wood, to make the point, when I see something for somebody like Cambridge Analytica, and there's an uproar over this, like people are howling over this. For those of you who don't know, Cambridge Analytica was a firm that essentially helped Trump get elected. They used Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, all these different services, and essentially was using the data in order to data mine and micro-target individuals. Meaning you could target specific people who you knew were inclined or leaning towards voting for your particular candidate. And you can massage them with certain articles, thoughts, tweets, whatever. It's fucking ingenious. Now, we live in a capitalistic system. Now, in that system, any way you can make a buck, by hook or by crook, somebody's going to try to make a buck. Somebody found a nook and cranny in Facebook's working system, and they took advantage of it and exploited it in order to be able to micro-target all those people. Now, people howl over this. Oh my God, you used that information to get elected. We didn't intend for you to use the information in the way that you use this information. How dare you, sir? How dare you? And they flipped out. I mean, there's a major uproar over this. It's like article after article after article is talking about this one specific thing. And I think to myself, wow, yeah, I don't like them using my data in this particular way. Fair enough. But was data being used like this prior? Like, people continuously act as if the world fell off a cliff when Donald Trump got elected. And I keep making the point that Donald Trump is an extension of the previous president. Now, Obama also used analytics. Maybe not necessarily Cambridge Analytica, but he used analytics in a similar way. Just to make the point. So this is Business Insider, just to give an idea on what we're talking about. Cambridge Analytica suspends CEO amid uproar over Facebook data leak. The CEO of Cambridge Analytica, the political research company at the center of the massive Facebook data scandal, was suspended on Tuesday. An undercover reporter for Britain Channel 4 News secretly filmed the CEO, Alexander Nix, offering shadowy services to entrap politicians, as well as boasting about using online propaganda tools, including so-called psychographic modeling techniques, to help Donald Trump win the 2016 election. I like that. Psychographic modeling techniques. I like saying the word. The news outlet's month-long multi-part investigation into the company is airing this week. Mr. Nix's recent comments, secretly recorded by Channel 4 and other allegations, do not represent the values or operations of the firm, and his suspension reflects the seriousness with which we view this violation, the board wrote in a statement on Tuesday. The undercover reporter, posing as a fixer for a wealthy client working to elect politicians for Sri Lanka, filmed Nix and his colleagues over 4 meetings from November to January. Facebook recently suspended Cambridge Analytica over an incident involving its harvesting of data from 50 million profiles. Cambridge Analytica was founded by Steve Bannon, the former White House chief strategist, and Robert Mercer, a top GOP donor, who has sunk at least $50 million into the company. Is said to have personal data gleaned from tens of millions of profiles to predict the behavior of individual American voters. Micro-targeting. Now, Facebook says, wait a minute, we don't like you doing this. We don't like you doing this. And so they suspended the person who, I guess, suspended that particular company from accessing the information the way they was accessing it. Now, fair enough. I can understand people not being happy with this. My information is being used in this way, fair enough. But methinks they protest a little too much. Now, what I mean by that is, yes, I could understand them taking your data. It's a big deal. But it sounds like this is more about we're angry that Donald Trump got elected. And so anything that helped Donald Trump get elected, we're going to be angry and we're going to scream at, we're going to shake our fists and, how dare you, sir? This man wasn't supposed to be president of the United States. How dare you use your data services in this way? The problem with this line of thinking is, what about Obama? I mean, I remember distinctly Obama having this spit and polish campaign where he is micro-targeting, and he was getting all these people left and right and all these young people onto his campaign. How was he doing that exactly? How exactly was he doing that? This is... yeah, let's go with this one. Right here. Maxine Waters brags about Obama's database with info on every individual. That database will have information about everything on every individual in ways that it has never done before. Yeah, and she was right. Let's see. Here we are. This is Time Magazine. Friended. How the Obama campaign connected with young voters. In the final weeks before the election day, a scary statistic emerged from the databases at Barack Obama's Chicago headquarters. Half of the campaign's targeted swing state voters under the age of 29 had no listed phone numbers. They lived in the cellular shadows, effectively immune to traditional get-out-the-vote efforts. For a campaign dependent on a big youth turnout, this could have been a crisis, but the Obama team had a solution in place. A Facebook application that would transform the way campaigns are conducted in the future. For supporters, the app appeared to be just another way to digitally connect to the campaign. But to the Windy City number crunchers, it was a game changer. I think this will wind up being the most groundbreaking piece of technology developed for the campaign, says Teddy Geoff, Obama's campaign digital director. Now, this article came out in 2012, and this is prophetic. Because what the article is talking about is literally what they're screaming about on Donald Trump. That's because more than 1 million Obama backers who signed up for the app gave the campaign permission to look at their Facebook lists, friends lists. In an instant, the campaign had a way to see hidden young voters. Roughly 85% of those without a listed phone number could be found in the uploaded friends list. What's more, Facebook offered an ideal way to reach them. People don't trust campaigns. They don't trust media organizations, said Goff. Who do they trust? their friends. The campaign called this effort targeted sharing. And in those final weeks of the campaign, the team blitzed the supporters who had signed up for the app with a request to share specific online content with specific friends simply by clicking the button. More than 600,000 supporters followed through with more than 5 million contacts, asking their friends to register to vote, give money, vote, or to look at a video designed to change their minds. A Geek Squad in Chicago created models of the vast data sets to find the best approach for each potential voter. We are not just sending a banner ad, explains Dan Wagner, the Obama campaign's 29-year-old head of analytics, who helped oversee a project. We're giving you relevant information from your friends. They're taking the friends list of these various people and blitzing out information from those friends. Let's keep going. There's more. Early tests of the system found statistically significant changes in voter behavior. People whose friends sent them requests to register to vote and to vote early, for example, were more likely to do so than similar potential voters who were not contacted. That confirmed the trend already noted in political science literature. Online social networks have the power to change voting behavior. A study of 61 million people on Facebook during the 2010 midterms found that people who saw photos of their friends voting on election day were more likely to cast the ballot themselves. It's much more effective to stimulate the real-world ties, said James Fowler, a professor at the University of California, San Diego, who co-authored the study. Now, they've done this study before, and I've shown this study before. This is the line test. So say, for example, you have a person. That person has 4 other people around him. Oh, this is the way one of the studies is conducted, but it's showing essentially how people respond in a group. That when you put people in a group, even when the person knows that the group is wrong, the person oftentimes bows to the group. At least, I think it was like 30% of the time, the person will bow to whatever the will of the group is. So if everybody's looking at a stone, everybody says, better yet, an asteroid is about to hit the planet. One person knows an asteroid is about to hit the planet. The other 4 people stand around with a thumb in their ass saying they don't see it. The guy who sees it says, maybe not. Maybe I don't see it. Maybe there's not an asteroid that's going to hit the planet. It's the effect of the group itself. Hillary Clinton, seeming like she had this insurmountable lead, has an effect on the consciousness of the people who are looking at that race. That's the reason why they put those super delegates in the first place. They're making this point that seeing people voting makes it look as if your friends and your neighbors and this thing in that person's head, their consciousness, goes with this idea of, oh, all of these other people are doing this. There becomes a social pressure for the person to conform to what other people are doing. Now, mind you, it might have only been 1 or 2 friends, but it doesn't really matter. It looks like people around him in his own sandbox are doing a particular behavior. And whether he logically understands or not that his emotions are kind of pushing him in a direction, he's being nudged in a particular direction just from the social pressure associated with it. Let's keep going. I love this because we're getting down to my point, my overall point. Campaign pros have known for years a phone call or a knock on the door from someone who lives in your neighborhood is far more effective than appeals for out-of-state volunteers or robocalls. Before social networks like Facebook, however, connecting to supportive friends and would-be voters was a challenge. Email, for instance, connects one person to a campaign. Facebook can connect a campaign through one person to 500 or more friends. Because it took more than a year to build a system, it was deployed only in the campaign's home stretch. The Romney teams used a far less sophisticated version of the technology. Political strategists on both sides said in the future they intend to get the system working sooner in primaries in key states and with more buy-in from supporters who would have greater understanding of their role in the process. Campaigns are trying to engineer what the new door knock is going to look like and what the next phone call is going to look like, says Patrick Ruffini, a Republican digital strategist who worked on the George W. Bush 2004 campaign. We're starting to see. Now, here's the thing. This was the 2012 campaign, and already the campaign had started to use those features that they're going after Donald Trump about. I mean, they were literally taking people's friends lists and blitzing out information to their friends lists. Now, yes, this may be slightly different, but I'm still making the point that the kernels of this, the behavior of this, is fundamentally the same. They're using Facebook in order to blitz out political information. Let's keep going. I mean, because this grows, this gets more sophisticated. So, let's see. Maxine Waters brags about the database, right? Let's see, there's a very specific part in this where they're talking about Facebook. Here we are. Right here. Guardian expose on the firm that was published Sunday suggests data obtained from the analytics group on 50 million Facebook user profiles was used to target campaigners for Trump campaign 2 years later. Cambridge Analytica denies the claim, maintaining that they did not use the data once Facebook complained that it was accessed in violation of its rules, because the person who conducted the data mining initially claimed it was only for educational purposes. In a series of tweets on Sunday, Carol Davidson, former director of integration and media analytics for the Obama for America, explained how the campaign was able to mine Facebook data in a way that employees for the company suggested they wouldn't have allowed someone else to do because they were on our side. Let me read that again. Explain how the campaign was able to mine Facebook's data in a way that employees for the company suggest they wouldn't have allowed someone else to do because they were on our side. Facebook was surprised we were able to suck out the whole social graph, but they didn't stop us once they realized that was what we were doing, she wrote. They came to the office in the days following the election recruiting and were very candid that they allowed us to do things that they wouldn't have allowed someone else to do because they were on our side. I worked on all the data integration projects for Obama for America. This was the only one that felt creepy, even though we played by the rules and didn't do anything I felt was ugly with the data, she added. She also noted that she is 100% positive that Facebook activity recruits and staffs people who are on the other side. Below is the first tweet in the series in which she highlights Times article praising Obama campaign's data mining efforts. That was an article that just read, this one. Look, my point to this is, there's one article after the next bashing Trump, bashing Cambridge Analytica, and it honestly feels like all of this has less to do with what Cambridge Analytica did and more to do with the fact that Donald Trump won the election. And any edifice, anything that assisted in Donald Trump winning the election, lefties, media wants to go after it. They want to punch it. They want to hit it. They want to bang their fists together. Oh, we're angry that Donald Trump won this election. We hate this guy. We don't like him. We're angry. So we're going to attack each and everything. Hey, you guys realize Obama did the same thing. Shut up. We don't care. He's on our side. He's on our side. No, I don't like Cambridge Analytica using the data. I didn't like them using the data prior, though. I mean, I'm consistent on this. I don't like... We give all of this information to Facebook. Am I shocked that Facebook is going to use this information? They're a private company. Of course they're going to use the data at some point. I'm not necessarily stunned by that. Am I stunned that if they're somewhat lax, that they're going to allow a company to use it that fits in with their political ideas? Now, this is the same organization that was banning certain content that they didn't like because it went after Hillary Clinton. Google is the same organization that, again, banned certain words and phrases so things that you were searching for about Hillary Clinton would not show up. They clearly had a political bias in this and clearly had a political dog in the hunt. So, no, I'm not necessarily shocked that the Obama federal campaign was allowed to do something that people are now complaining that Donald Trump did. Look, all I'm asking is be consistent. That's all I'm asking. So you have this weird situation, and I'll end it on this, because there are multiple items where they howl and bitch and moan at Donald Trump about this, and yet gave the other guy a pass, and I don't understand how they continuously do this. The level of hypocrisy is breathtaking, and yet they do it nonetheless. One comment after the next. So Barack Obama locked people up for the Espionage Act over and over again, using more than any other president. Donald Trump gets in, says one thing about the whistleblowers, and Democrats howl, oh my God, we got to protect the whistleblowers. We must protect the noble and sacred whistleblower. You weren't worried about protecting the noble and sacred whistleblower when your guy was going after him. What about, in addition to whistleblowers, Donald Trump puts a Muslim ban. Now, I didn't like the Muslim ban. I don't particularly like it. But is it consistent? We are bombing those countries. Now, the Democrats have this weird thing of, yes, we want those people to be able to come to the country, but yes, we're perfectly okay with the President of the United States bombing the shit out of those countries. Meaning, yeah, we're okay with racking up a major body count from the standpoint of civilians. But yes, we also, despite racking up a major body count in regard to civilians, want to allow those people to come to the country. How about not killing them? How about getting your person, your candidate, your president, whoever that president is, to push that person not to do the drone bombings, not to do the killings? No, I don't like this thing that Donald Trump is putting in where he's trying to ban Muslims from coming to the country. But I also don't like the Democratic president killing those exact same Muslims. All I'm saying is be consistent. Jesus Christ. I'm not going to hold this one too long. Let's see. Obama used tech that Trump would later use. Yeah, that's my point. That's exactly my point. Balthazar 228. Yeah. So in 2012, they're talking about the technology that Obama is using when he's using Facebook in a particular way. Like he's using it, it's almost like the precursor to what Donald Trump did or what the company did for Donald Trump, Cambridge Analytica. But they got more sophisticated. I mean, this article is literally talking about the Obama administration using. Maxine Waters brags about Obama database with info on every individual. And for all intents and purposes, what she's talking about is this kind of Facebook connectivity in a way that he's accessing these people by micro-targeting. Well, Donald Trump, Cambridge Analytica was more of, I guess, an evolved version of that. But they were able to micro-target down to like the political ideology and determine whether or not what they're doing is effective. In the same way that they're talking about for Obama, where he was able to determine if what he was doing was effective. Like, can we just be consistent? Can we just be consistent? It's not that I like Trump, but god damn it, if you're going to go after him, can you at least go after him for stuff that he's doing? Like, he is monetizing the presidency. Why not going after him for that? He's doing horrendous things on the environmental stuff. The people that he's putting into those offices are literally destroying the edifices of government itself. They're talking about fucking Trump and Russia. Come on. I mean, in the most, and this is somewhat of a detour, but the biggest glaring thing is that tax bill, where 90% of that money is going to the top 1%, something like 90%. And with the worst income inequality that we've ever had in this country, and you can make an argument, the world, I mean, in the history of the world, class is not put on the table. You would think that the argument that Democrats will run to would be class. They don't even feign to that argument. Creating a distinction between who they are versus who the Republicans are would be the thing that would be the most sane and logical thing to do. The catch is, their donors has already told them not to say anything about class. Shut up about class. And so they shut up about class. So now the argument needs to be made, has to be made in some way that doesn't necessarily deal with the actual thing, the elephant in the room that needs to be discussed and needs to be talked about. The biggest weapon that's available gets put on the shelf because Democrats essentially don't want to use that weapon because that weapon also hurts their donors. Fucking amazing. Klobuchar, yeah. Klobuchar has told them to shut the fuck up about class. That's right. Balthazar, the first group of slaves brought to the United States by the Portuguese were sold as indentured servants because slaves were more expensive than serfs. The United States would have enslaved the Spanish and Native Americans. Well, I remember the first were indentured servants, and at some point they became slaves. I guess the point of I was trying to make in the other article, in the other video. It is impossible to disassociate what America is from what America has done. Like, he's trying to make this case that you can disassociate whites from black. Like, that's the essential quality. Fact is, without a slave master, you don't have a slave. Or without a slave, you don't have a slave master, or something to that effect. I'm just making the point that both of these things are necessary. There is no such thing as whites in America without these other items associated with it. There was already somebody here, meaning the very conversation you're having when you're talking about America also involves the murdering and the genocide of Native Americans. That conversation soon ends up with having a conversation about enslavement of blacks. It is impossible to have that conversation about what America is, making this argument that, well, in another term, the whites were the essential quantity to that, and you could take those guys out. No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. That's fantasy thinking. The reality that we have before us is the reality that we have before us. This idea of genocide, slavery, and everything else. There was a lot of heinous shit that went on in order to make this country what it was. He didn't want to own it. Or at the very least, he didn't care about it. He didn't care about it. He would own it because, you know, there's no weight to it at that point. It's like, yeah, I'll own whatever you want if I don't necessarily care about the thing that you're telling me to own. Let's see. Baltazar, one of the first Supreme Court cases was over one of them slicing his neighbor for property encroachment. Jesus Christ. Stone Corso, writing legislation that is impossible to read is an art form. They go to school for it and spend a lifetime perfecting it. Yeah. Because they give you wiggle room. You know, it's like you can interpret it a particular way, even interpret it a way that it wasn't necessarily intended. And if you have the right people on that jury, or if you have the right people in the policy positions, you're going to get that legislation deformed and crippled. Yeah. Alright guys, I'm not going to keep this one too long. I think I may have one more that I want to do after this one. So, thank you guys for showing up. Alright guys, if you enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support through Patreon. Thanks everyone.